Now let's pick up on a subject that Ropiwa mentioned in her Money News. The City of Cape Town has a plan to end load shedding in the city. The city announced today that it has begun issuing tenders for independent power producers. Let's unpack this now with the Mayor of Cape Town, Geordin-Hill Lewis. Mayor, thank you so much for your time this evening. So first of all, have you given yourself a deadline? How long do you think this is all going to take?
Good evening, Sally. It's really nice to be with you. Thanks for the invitation. We have set ourselves a deadline of 40 months for all of this power to be constructed and connected to the grid. There is quite a long lead time on procurement and construction, which is why I pushed our team to start so early into this term to get this procurement underway so that we can get construction underway and get everything connected and built in the next 40 months.
All right, so that's 3 years and 4 months. I would imagine, so that's your deadline for never having to worry about load shedding in the city of Cape Town again. I would imagine that long before that, though, you're going to see independent power coming in to Cape Town. When is that going to start?
Well, the procurement will run for a few months, and then the projects have to reach financial close, and then they have to start construction. So I suspect that, probably in the next 18 months or so, we will start to see the small projects come online. Those are the 5 to 20 megawatt projects. And then slightly after that, the bigger, more expensive projects will start to be constructed and come online. But that 40-month deadline applies to all of them being finished, as you say, so that we can get closer to ending load shedding in Cape Town.
All right, so the Energy Minister is happy with the plan. I think Eskom is also happy with the plan. Is Cape Town first past the post, or will Cape Town be first past the post to end load shedding? Or are smaller towns and cities, I'm thinking Stellenbosch, are they likely to beat you to it because they have less energy requirements?
So two important points there. Firstly, it is significant that Minister Mantashe on stage with me this morning said that he definitely will not stand in the way of Cape Town, that he's very supportive of our plans. And that's very significant because a lot of the uncertainty out there in the market related to the fact that national government may stand in the way of towns and cities procuring their own power. So that was a second significant announcement today. And yes, I take that competition quite seriously, I must tell you. The smaller towns are also on the chase. And we are very committed to winning.
What are the challenges? You've mentioned, it was really important to get the nod from the Energy Minister, but there have been a lot of regulations, a lot of red tape that has actually stood in the way. We have seen these bid windows opening up and a certain amount of clearing of the way. But realistically, how much are you going to have to do battle with regulations and red tape?
That is really the crucial question, Sally, and I don't know the answer. My hope is that the minister makes good on his commitment this morning and that he does not wrap this up in 100 miles of red tape and that we can proceed reasonably quickly. If something else happens and we are bogged down in red tape, then it will really make a mockery of the government's commitments to ending the power crisis in our country as soon as possible, because we are trying to help do that as quickly as we can by getting new capacity onto the grid. So my appeal is that they stick by the commitment made this morning, that they will not stand in our way, that they'll support us, that they'll clear the runway, so to speak, and we'll certainly hold them to that.
Now, I know that this 40-month goal that you have is not going to mean that Cape Town doesn't need Eskom at all anymore. It's just going to mean, hopefully, if it succeeds, that you are able to not put anyone into load shedding in your city. Is the eventual goal to be completely independent of Eskom, though?
No, I don't think so. I think for decades to come, Eskom will still be a major provider of electricity in South Africa. And the goal is not to get completely off the national grid. It is to make up, firstly, as you say, to make up that gap between what is currently available and what we need to close the load shedding gap, so to speak. And we would like to reduce our reliance on Eskom even further because Eskom power is so expensive and it is getting more and more expensive every year. And renewable power is coming in at just a fraction of that cost. But of course, it is true to say that renewable power is not always available at all times of the day. So you do still need that Eskom base load, and we will still need it for the foreseeable future.
I'm glad you've mentioned cost, because I was going to ask how much this is going to cost, because any new sort of startup with IPPs is surely going to be costly. Is it going to ultimately mean that the citizens of Cape Town are going to pay initially a bit more for their electricity, or is it going to ultimately cost them less? Do you have a costing to start with?
No, quite the opposite, actually, Sally. The latest round of IPPs are charging 47 cents per unit of electricity, compared to R1.67 for Eskom. So it is, less than a third of the cost. So actually, the more that we can turn to IPPs in Cape Town and renewable power and reduce our reliance on Eskom, you will get to a position where you're actually able to pass on the savings, while the national electricity price just continues to skyrocket. So local prices may actually be able to come down. And that's great. That's ultimately what we want for South Africa. And Mr. De Ruyter supports that entirely, that we have a competitive energy grid with lots of producers eventually competing on price.
All right, thank you very much. The Mayor of Cape Town, Geordin-Hill Lewis, announcing today they're giving themselves 40 months, that's 3 years and 4 months, to make sure that the city of Cape Town never has load shedding again.